Good afternoon. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Welcome you to our January 9th, 2023 regular meeting of Belleville City Council. The City of Belleville acknowledges we are meeting today on the traditional territory of many nations. The municipality operates on the unceded and unsurrendered lands of our Indigenous peoples. We recognize and honor the historic relationships of the Indigenous peoples of this land and acknowledge our shared obligation to respect, honor, and sustain these lands and the natural resources contained within them. We recognize all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who call Belleville their home and support the need for cultivating a strong relationship with them. We look forward to fostering a path towards reconciliation and show respect for Indigenous people who first lived and currently live on the land where we now all reside together. For those who are watching on City streaming service or our YouTube channel, or on your TV broadcast, I would point out that our agenda and all reports are on the City website, www.belleville.ca, under the agenda, minutes, and live meeting video on the left side of the screen. If you then click on January 9th on the calendar, it will bring you to the agenda for today's meeting. There's a hyperlink on the agenda in the event you wish to look at the reports, and you can follow along. I will call the meeting to order, and we all are present. Please remain standing for a moment of reflection with City Clerk Matt McDonald.
May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. Help us to be concerned only for what will promote good government. May we bring to our council chambers minds that think and hearts that feel, always having respect for others so that we may serve the people of our city in a helpful manner and for the good of all.
Please be seated. Okay, I'm calling for a disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Seeing none, I need a motion for the special council meeting minutes of November 18th, 21st, 2022, and the regular council meeting minutes of December 12th, 2022. Councillor Alstott, Councillor Chatton, any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Our first deputation tonight is Tom Zolinsny, CEO, and Abigail McElwain, Associate Director of Healthcare Advancement of University Hospitals Kingston Foundation, are here to make a deputation. Tom and Abigail, sorry about the names, but I think we got it close. Okay.
Kingston Foundation is the fundraising arm
you got it.
of both the Kingston Health Sciences Center and Providence Care Center, and these two hospitals cover the region that you see on the map, essentially from Brighton to Cardinal and as far north as past Bancroft. They offer a full range of services as a tertiary hospital. We have the privilege of being connected to Queen's University, and as a result, we attract the types of specialists that normally you'd only find in a large city like Toronto or Ottawa. So there's a myth that the provinces, through their tax revenues, cover all the costs of healthcare and hospitals. That has actually never been the case. The majority of the equipment and infrastructure purchases that the hospitals have to make are in fact covered by ancillary revenues and through philanthropy. Up until 2016, the split for major infrastructure was 50-50, and in 2016 that was changed to 90-10 in favor of the local community and the hospitals. So it is now the province that covers most of those costs once those are approved, but those are only for major infrastructure such as a complete new tower or a new hospital building. Any minor renovations typically are funded locally. In the case of Kingston Health Sciences Center, just in the next 10 years alone, normal equipment replacement and new innovations are estimated to be costing somewhere in the $400 million range. That does not include the cost of any sort of redevelopment or a new hospital. The tower that was supposed to go at Kingston General Hospital has been put on hold in terms of its planning while the hospital discusses with the ministry some other options, essentially because of the escalations of costs that have come as a result of inflation, combined with some technicalities that were discovered along the way, and also because the two hospitals, Kingston General and Hotel Dieu, are now fully merged, and having reevaluated what is actually being offered of those two sites, it means that it might make more sense to look at some other alternatives. With that, I'll hand over to Abby, who has been our main driver of relationships with city councils, and so she'll speak more specifically to your own case.
So I just want to start with explaining that the reason that the funding needs are so extensive at KHSC is because the acute care at the hospital extends to the entire southeastern Ontario region, serving patients far beyond Kingston's borders, as shown in the data presented here. Broken out by public health unit, Hastings, Prince Edward County accounts for over 85,000 visits each year. And when we consider how residents of Belleville are using the hospitals in Kingston, our data shows that nearly 14,000 individuals accessed care last year, which translates to almost 1/3 of Belleville residents accessing these services. The frequency of the hospital visits is factored into the fair share calculation for our request for support, and that number jumps considerably to 29,000 annual visits. This fair share approach ensures our appeal to municipalities is fair and based on usage of hospital services. It's consistently used when seeking support from other municipalities for the hospital and is well received. I also want to highlight the 22,000 outpatient visits and 6,400 visits for cancer treatment, indicating a high use of specialized services. It's clear that Belleville General is doing an excellent job of meeting the patient's routine and some emergency healthcare needs. But when those needs become acute or highly specialized, Kingston Health Sciences Centre is there to provide the critical and complex care needed for Belleville residents. As Tom shared, the planning phase for KGH redevelopment is on hold while we await further feedback from the Ministry of Health. The hospital must continue to innovate and build capacity for the care happening inside its existing walls. The capital upgrades and renewals for research, equipment, and specialized services are the first steps in advancing care at KHSC and will attract the best and brightest specialists that are needed for innovative healthcare. At some point, every citizen in our region will require the assistance of Kingston's hospitals for themselves or a loved one. And when that time comes, they will count on being able to access specialists in a well-equipped, patient-centered environment to ensure the best possible healthcare experiences and outcomes. The short-term goal is to invest $15 million in capital upgrades and renewals at KHSC. These upgrades will be seen in operating room equipment, in the clinical labs, and diagnostic imaging. In our hospital operating rooms, the surgical teams perform more than 22,000 specialized procedures each year. If you've participated in our annual hospital tours, you'll recall that these spaces are some of the oldest operating rooms in the country. This trend for minimally invasive surgical procedures requires very specialized equipment and allows for safer outcomes, shorter hospital stays, and time off work. Today, they require an investment of $4 million to bring them up to patient care standards. The equipment will benefit a variety of departments from bariatrics to oncology to urology, ENT, trauma, pediatrics, obstetrics, and gynecology. Another priority is our clinical labs, where they are working to expand the translational genomics facility. This highly specialized lab was born of the pandemic when KHSC was selected as one of 4 labs in Ontario to monitor variants of concern. Fast forward to today, where the labs are taking the next step in precision medicine, also referred to as personalized medicine, through genetic sequencing and making the diagnosis of cancer and other diseases more accurate by evaluating specific tumor biomarkers to select the safest and most effective treatments. We need to increase funding by $2.5 million to acquire the necessary equipment to expand the translational genomics lab. This will lead to improved detection, diagnosis, treatment, and outcomes for our communities. In a recent announcement from Ontario Health, KHSC, was approved as the 14th site in Ontario to operate a PET scanner. This is very positive news for citizens of southeastern Ontario who will no longer have to travel to Ottawa or Toronto for these scans. A PET scan will scan patients more comprehensively than a CT or an MRI. In cancer patients, a PET scanner allows specialists to determine the stage of cancer in a patient, if the cancer has spread, and whether it has returned. The PET scan is an early, essential step before treatment of most cancers. Today, patients drive to Ottawa or Toronto and spend several hours there each time a PET scan is required. PET scans are also repeated at intervals during therapy, and this really is a barrier to therapy. Having access to this advanced imaging at KHSC will save residents time, money, and worry, and will also lead to better, earlier diagnosis and treatment of cancer and some cardiac conditions. The new PET scanner will be housed at KGH and will cost $8 million. The government funds the minimum operations for this device, but offers no coverage for the actual device or the construction. This immediate $15 million investment reflects a small but critical portion of the $400 million required over the next 10 years for capital and infrastructure upgrades, for which there's no government funding. It will be sourced through a combination of hospital operating dollars as well as community philanthropy. We are requesting a sizable pledge, but we want to highlight the direct benefits to the residents of your city. In general terms, there will be more advanced procedures offered closer to home. Through improved operating room equipment, residents will have better surgical outcomes with more minimally invasive options. Investment in the Translational Genomics Lab will lead to better cancer treatments and outcomes for the entire region. The addition of a PET scanner will bring reduced wait times and travel times for imaging that is required during cancer and cardiac diagnosis and treatments. But perhaps most noteworthy is that as an academic teaching facility, one of only 5 in Ontario, we are fortunate to have some of the best specialists in the world practicing here. But if we don't have the facilities or equipment to accommodate their cutting-edge procedures, we could be overlooked. Finally, the acute care accessible to Belleville will help attract individuals and businesses to the Quinte region, which we know is anticipating significant growth over the next 25 years. As the population of southeastern Ontario, including that of the city of Belleville, continues to grow and age, the region's tertiary care facility must also continue to invest in new technology and innovation. Our hospital is looking to the leadership from Belleville City Council to help us achieve our vision of providing a transformative healthcare experience for citizens of southeastern Ontario. UHKF is asking Council to build upon your past investment with a pledge of $200,000 in each of the next 5 years for a total commitment of $1 million. This investment is based on a fair share calculation for the 29,500 visits made by Belleville residents last year. Support at this level will directly improve patient care for the citizens of Belleville and our region, and will also set the bar as other municipalities are approached for their support. We understand that there are many pressures and demands on your operating budget, and you have a difficult job considering all the requests that will make the greatest impact on your residents. We believe that quality healthcare is a strong step in the right direction and hope that the information shared today will inspire members of council to support the capital upgrades at Kingston Health Sciences Centre in addition to your other local priorities. The value residents place on access to healthcare close to home is difficult to measure, but it is often a top priority over the last few months to talk about the hospital priorities. If there's any questions?
Councillor Chadden.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Your Worship. I have a conflict. My sister is the treasurer for UHFC. I should probably step out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions for the deputation? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much for coming. At the end, I don't know when it's appropriate, Your Worship, to make a amendment to the motion, but at the end I'll make an amendment, but I have a question.
Okay.
I certainly have a family is very aware of the facility that you have in Kingston. How many heart operations do you people do? Would you have that calculation? That's where our family is very connected, because my wife and myself and my son-in-law just unfortunately passed away with a massive heart attack. But how many heart operations would you do a year? Any idea?
We could look that up, but it's certainly not something that's in our memory banks.
No, I didn't figure it was, but that's where and I certainly support that we need to be looking at Kingston as our, and really, maybe it's a secondary, but maybe it's our main source for a hospitalization. So we certainly need to support it. There was talk when we talked about possibility of building a brand new hospital. Is that still in the queue in any way, shape, or form?
So we don't know where that's going exactly, but the hospital board has, in fact, as is noted earlier, put a hold on their current plan for a new tower. and there's nothing that's off the table on that, but what it's actually going to be will really come down to what the ministry's prepared to support.
So if we help fund this equipment would go into the present facility and then be just transferred into the new facility.
Absolutely.
Is that
Yes.
correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, and I'll make an amendment later when we.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Kelly?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thanks for the presentation tonight. You look at those numbers, almost 30,000 patient visits from Belleville alone. So when I look at the Kingston hospitals, it's a regional facility. Technology could be the latest, and you know, investing in getting new technology, and it costs money. And you know, as a municipal government, we see it now across the provinces that cities like Belleville and other communities are spending money to recruit doctors, and we're continuing to invest in fundraising for new equipment because the provincial government doesn't pay that, doesn't purchase that. And a lot of people have a tough time getting over that hurdle, or they're not aware of that. So that's the challenge to municipal governments. I looked at your website, and I see the potential for more relationship building with the City of Belleville and Kingston Health Sciences Center. You had 45 events last year in fundraising, and I tried to go through them to see if there was any from the City of Belleville, and it doesn't look like there happens to be any, but I mean, there's room for growth. And as Councillor Thompson mentioned, so many of the people that we're connected with, we hear stories of going to Kingston. Cancer Society, think how many daily trips happen east and westbound from Belleville to Kingston for treatment. I think we all know many people in our lives that use those services. So I'm going to be supporting this. And I think maybe it's none of my business, but maybe Kingston Health Sciences, I looked at your board as well. It's time now in 2023 to look at a regional board. All these pockets that are contributing, hopefully, to better health and the equipment, that this is something that we have to look at. But I'm going to be supporting this.
I know for a fact that both our own board, that the Hospital Foundation, as well as that of KHSC, is in fact looking at that regionality and making sure that the board is actually represented that way.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Millette?
Thank you, Your Worship, and yeah, I don't have any questions per se. I do have some comments, and I believe we will be making a motion to refer this at some point. I'm wholly supportive. I think if we look around this room, it doesn't matter around the council table, around the gallery, there isn't one of us here who hasn't been touched by the services that are required from Kingston hospitals, and be it Hotel Dieu or KGH, we've all had either ourselves or a family member, I believe in this room, have benefited from those services. And this isn't the first time that we've been asked to do our bit. I think it's more than that. It's an extension, I think, of our health network here in Quinte. And as you pointed out, Quinte Healthcare is certainly, our lead healthcare agency. We do support them most generously, but I believe it behooves us to do our bit as well in a big way for services that are specialized. Any of us, myself, many years ago as a scared parent, first-time parent, my daughter wound up in the NICU for 3 weeks, and that daughter is now 35 years old, as a doctorate, and is doing well working for the government of the British Columbia. But there's the success story. Frightened parents, and as I read with great interest in the report, there are plans for the NICU down in Kingston, and some of the points that were raised here really hit home, because I remember just how frightening it is when you think you may lose your child, and you're in a big room with a lot of bassinets, with babies that are wired up and clinging to life, and there's no privacy. Alarms are going off. Some of the things in this report are just common sense, because nobody should ever have to deal with that. So I'm fully and wholly supportive of this, and we'll see where it goes come budget. Thank you.
Councillor Allstott, then Councillor Enright Miller.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and through you, just some comments to Tom and Abby, or Abby?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate you guys taking the time out to discuss with us the importance of supporting Kingston hospitals. As a father of 3 young girls, all under 3, I've needed your services a fair bit in the last couple of years, and certainly been appreciative for that. And you know, we can't underline anymore the importance of being able to get good quality care near where you live, because when you're traveling to get care, when you're having to stay overnight in hotels and different places, it really adds to a lot of the cost and also a lot of strain on the family. So having these services closer to home is very important. And I think if we look at $200,000 a year for 5 years, against 13,996 unique visits, we're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of $15 per Belleville resident that visited, and I think that's a pretty good return, so I'll certainly be happy to support that.
Councillor Enright Miller.
Thank you, Chair, through you. Thank you, Tom and Abby, for your presentation. I just wanted to say I would be in full support of this. I don't think there's anybody in this room that has not visited Kingston, and it gives us a comfort level to know that the expertise is there. And I just want to reiterate my colleagues' comments. I will be in full support. Thank you.
Anybody else? Councillor Thompson, are you looking for a motion to move this to budget then? Did you want to make a motion?
Yeah, no, I want to move it but before I make that motion, I think we need to make sure that we still emphasize that all these municipalities are doing this because we need to do it, and also because we have upper level government that's not doing it, even though we have an upper level government with us here today. So I'm sure you'll make note, but we are doing this because we need you need us, and we still need to be pushing the different levels of government to come up to the platter and make this a priority in the healthcare business. We really have no business in having to raise funds to save lives and everything else. But anyways, I'll make the motion we receive when we send this to budget.
Seconded by Councillor Allstott. Okay. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you very much.
Next, for deputation, we have Matt Brown, Chair of Gleaners Food Bank. We'll make a deputation to council. Matt. We just hold off 1 second. We're waiting for one councillor.
Yeah, no problem.
Councillor Chatton. Okay, Matt, good enough to go.
Thank you very much, and perhaps a belated congrats, but welcome to all the new and returning councillors to the table today. I really do appreciate the time that I've been granted, and do want to make it worthwhile. But for those of you whom I've yet to meet, my name is Matt Brown, and I chair the board of directors at Gleaners Food Bank Quinte Inc. And today I come not so much with an ask, but more just an opportunity to share candidly some of the challenges that the food bank has faced and that many of our citizens face when they simply check out at the grocery store. So when we think of the challenges over the past 3 years that have been experienced at the food bank, I've tried to consolidate those into particular areas, and it probably goes without saying, but increase in cost of housing, increase in food-related costs. Just a story from our own personal family. My wife and I consider ourselves very lucky to have good paying jobs because we have 3 children who are all allergic to gluten. And just yesterday I spent $9 on a loaf of bread at a local grocery store. So on top of that, still combating some of the challenges that were experienced during the pandemic, which involved massive changes to how we operate in order to do so and remain open and remain safe, both our staff as well as our clients, and a reduction in monetary and food donations. So to paint a picture of how bad that was, if we look back at the October 2022 citywide food drive, we generated 5.5 tons of food. Historically, that food drive will donate upwards of 25 tons, so approximately a 78% reduction in what we would historically receive there. And what that equates to is, for the first time in Gleaner's history, which dates back to the mid-'80s, we had to purchase food in the months of November and December. So taking this into consideration, it really has been a perfect storm for not just Gleaners, but food banks as a whole. And while I remain optimistic, I think some of the challenges that we face aren't going anywhere in the near term. So when we consider a forecasted recession, as well as increases in interest rates that continue to be on the table and at least appear to be discussed, we're up against the wall. And in fact, the CFPR, Canada's Food Price Report, which is an annual collaboration between research partners at Dalhousie, the University of Guelph, the University of Saskatchewan, as well as the University of BC, are forecasting a 5 to 7% food price increase in 2023. And that is primarily driven by increases in vegetables, dairy, and meats. So this would equate to an average family of four spending approximately $16,288 a year on food, which would be an increase of just over $1,000 relative to what was experienced this past year. So heading into the month of December, Gleaners was forecasting for its fiscal year approximately a $200,000 deficit, along with the reduction in food donations that have been associated with increase in costs. Thankfully, in the month of December, our community really did rise to the occasion. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the individuals, community groups, business leaders who came forward with their time, their effort, their energy, and quite frankly, their wallets. It is certainly our hope, and we haven't had the final December numbers come in and be finalized yet, but that those projected deficits, both in food donations and money, will be reduced, but it's quite clear that they won't be eliminated. And when we think about food banks as a whole, and there's been a number of pieces written on this lately, the original intent, or how they were designed, was a stopgap solution, right? A temporary resource or refuge for people to access food because they were laid off for 2 weeks. Well, frankly, I can say that's unfortunately no longer the case. Our clients have a chronic need for food. They're visiting us consistently every 21 days for indefinite periods of time. So what has come from being a stopgap solution is now a required social safety net, and we're requiring to revamp our operations in order to accommodate for that. Now, I want to make it clear today that Gleaners has no plans on shutting its doors. We certainly have sufficient funds to continue to ride out this storm. But with that said, there's certainly a need for systemic changes in how we partner with all levels of government, and a requirement that we continue to drive new relationships within our communities. So I look forward to what will hopefully be a productive relationship between Belleville City Hall and Gleaners Food Bank, and I'd certainly welcome anyone who has yet to visit the facility to come down and coordinate a tour, and I'm certainly happy to facilitate that. But that's all I have for you today, and I'm happy to tackle any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the deputation? Councillor Thompson.
One quick one. There was the big reduction, and I happened to be over there the day that we did the collection, and it dropped considerably. Is there any particular reason, or that you thought that we would have dropped from 75 ton to 25 ton? Because the volunteers were there to sort it. We just didn't have the return on. Any particular reason where you think you may be able to overcome that?
Yeah, I think part of the challenge is when citizens are checking out at the grocery stores and your bill comes out to $300 and you get home and you feel like there's no food in the fridge. There's just not a lot left for people to give. So I think, our community has stepped up and it continues to step up. I just think collectively there's too many stressors put on the individuals to contribute the way they once did.
But that's a drastic drop in the collection that day. Do you feel that you can generate that collection maybe back up to 50 tons? Is there a way of trying to get to the public? I know everybody's stretched, and I'm no different than anybody else. The grocery bills that used to be $100 for the two of us is now $150. So everybody's same boat. But I'm concerned about that food drive, that one day that's crucial to your operation?
Yeah, I do know in the past there has been support from City Council for resources to support that food drive, and that's certainly something, you know, we're in a position right now where we're looking to partner in whatever conceivable way we can, and whatever the city could do to help in that food drive, we'd certainly support that.
Councillor Carr.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Brown, for coming. Yeah, I think it was 1981 that the food bank was first introduced in Edmonton during the 1980s as a temporary measure because of inflation. And it's unfortunate food banks have become a reality in every community. I think that speaks more to the problem we have in the structural basis of our community and how we support people. You know, it was astounding. Recently, I saw a member of provincial parliament promoting food banks across the region, and he's in the best position sitting at the provincial level dealing with social welfare programs to be able to implement programs to be able to provide people the income they need to sustain today, but instead use that time just to promote food banks, which is, I think, a misdirection. The question I have for you is, we got an indication of what the food tonnage is. What do your client numbers look like, say, over the last couple of years?
Yeah, so this year we're forecasting what looks like about a 33% increase in visits to the food bank. Alarming, but I don't have the number on it, is the percentage of visits that are now first-time visitors as well. So I think what we're seeing is a bubble breaking in terms of people that were just getting by are no longer getting by.
I would be interested to see those hard numbers. Sure. As to, you know, where you've been in the past couple of years, what you're seeing now, and then also what you're projecting. Because again, I think your statistics provide a very good barometer for us to be able to then present these numbers to our members of provincial parliament and federal parliament in order to say, look, we need actual programs here that provide individuals with the incomes they need to live in today's world. And you know, it'd be nice to see food banks eradicated, but as long as they're there, in my opinion, it says that senior levels of government are coming up short in helping people make their day-to-day needs. So those hard numbers would certainly be appreciated. Thank you.
Yes. I can provide those.
Councillor Alsop.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Brown, for coming today to talk to us about the food bank. So you mentioned that obviously donations have fallen off quite dramatically with the effects of rising inflation and cost increases. And that's probably going to affect a lot of families and sort of middle-income earners who would make up a lot of those at-the-counter donations at grocery stores, things of that nature. Have you seen any response from the business community or the philanthropic community to help offset that? And are there programs that that businesses are using that are effective? And what can businesses or wealthy individuals do to become more involved in a way that's most beneficial for your organization?
No, I appreciate the question, and yes, the business community has always supported Gleaners in a variety of ways, and there's always more we can do. So if I looked at from a prioritization standpoint, you know, our three biggest needs would be money, food, and volunteers, right? And there's a lot of different ways we can get all three of those things brought in, but certainly I'd open up conversations with any community leaders, business leaders, or organizations that are looking for a way to contribute, but are not sure the best way to do it.
Okay, any other questions? I need a motion to receive. Councillor Chatton, Councillor Carr, all in favor? Carried. Thanks, man. Okay, for our next deputation, no stranger to this council room is MP, Member of Parliament Ryan Williams, is here for a deputation to council. Ryan, welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council. Last time I was in front of this podium, looked a lot different in here though, was 2016, and that was with the Bay Quinte Living Council, and the mayor, I believe, Your Worship, was Tasso Christopher. At that time, we were short of immigration to Belleville. We launched our first immigration portal, and people in general, we were only growing at 0.2% a year. A house at that time was $268,000 average in the region. You could get a waterfront piece of property in Prince Edward County for $350,000. How things have changed through COVID-19 and through changes to our economy, we know we have a major housing shortage, a growing homelessness crisis, problems with addictions and with mental health and homelessness. We have an inflation and interest crisis. We are still short people, just more so. We are short over 3,000 vacant jobs that we can't fill, mostly skilled trades in the region. And of course, part of that is skilled trades that builds homes. We need doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, and we need the Via Rail 651 to get back in operation to get workers to and from Toronto. The problems we face across all levels of government are serious and critical, and the only way that we can solve them is by working together across all three levels of government. And so that's why I'm here today. I'm here to ask you, how best can I serve you as your MP in order that we can solve these hard problems together? And I'm especially looking forward to working so alongside all of you, but also with His Worship, the Mayor, as his combined knowledge with myself and our connections and experience on both sides of the aisle in Ottawa are certainly going to be advantageous as we work together to try to solve these hard problems. And as you said, Your Worship, in this year's New Year's levy, there's nothing here in Belleville, in Bay of Quinte, but endless possibilities, and certainly we can get there together if we all work together. So Happy New Year and congratulations to all of you on your elections. It certainly feels like a long time since I was on the other side of this horseshoe, but I know all of you and each of you, and I will look forward to working alongside you as we work together on these shared problems. I wanted to also start answering some questions probably for some of the new councillors around here about what I actually do and what our offices do. Our offices in Belleville have been very, very busy in the last year, mostly with immigration, working as a de facto Service Canada office with passports. They are getting a little better. My daughter's always took 8 months, but we can get them within 6 weeks if we push pretty hard. But a lot of problems with CRA, issues we're hearing, just like Matt just talked about with Gleaner's Food Bank, inflation, interest rates, and people falling through. But in Ottawa, I am your voice on the floor of Parliament when we talk about debating bills, when we have certain issues we want to bring to committee, and certainly issues that we have from our municipalities. And what I really want to point out, it's very important to me that we work, and we often saw this when I was a councillor, not only as Belleville, but the region of Bay of Quinte, but also for Eastern Ontario. The biggest chunk of the pie that we can represent fully, because we're not in Toronto and we're certainly not in Quebec, is Eastern Ontario, and working fully with those municipalities, with Gananoque and Brockville and Kingston and even Peterborough and Cornwall. We all have shared challenges. I want to ensure that we work together with them, and I'm working with those MPs and MPPs together, and of course, Your Worship, with the mayors. Something I can't do is bring Costco to Belleville, but I'm certainly going to be working hard with Heather on a lot of different issues when it comes to economic development, and that, of course, is my passion, and I am the Shadow Minister for Pan-Canadian Trade and Competition, so I'm spending a lot of time talking about Rogers and WestJet and cell phone bills and internet and all the other fun stuff that we also need to help our residents with. But my goals are your goals, and I want to work through those goals this afternoon. So I have a few slides we'll go through. We'll start with mental health. Certainly a big issue. COVID-19 has caused this issue to be exacerbated. Only 55% of Canadians said they were in good mental health in 2020, down from 68% in 2019. That rate is only 40% among those aged 15 to 24. We really want to improve mental health funding, but what's really important when we talk to our associations in the region, we need more counselors. So when we're talking about professionals, we're talking about doctor recruitment and other ways to bring in professionals in the region. More counselors is what we need. A lot of the people that need help simply can't have the help because we don't have the people to help them. I'm going to mention another great resource. There was passed a 988 suicide lifeline. It will be launched on November 30th this year, and that's really important. I assume it's going to be resources that get put into the existing 911, but again, another great resource that we can offer residents. Hand in hand with that is addiction. Sadly, Belleville has one of the highest rates of overdoses per capita of any city in Canada. Addictions can lead to homelessness, and adversely, homelessness can lead to addictions. We've heard a lot of stories of people who, and for whatever reason, I know you get them, I get them, of people who have just found through lack of resources they're able to scrape by and get their rent, or people who have had to pay other bills and just can't make rent work. They evidently end up in the streets. Sometimes they're invisible. They end up sleeping out of their car for a long time, but eventually they're homeless. And a lot of people who are homeless, you got to think you're trying to protect your stuff, and the hardest time, if you can't get shelters at nighttime, they end up taking a drug to stay alert and awake to protect their stuff, because they physically can't feel pain. People also in homelessness find themselves in addictions. It's just a vicious cycle. So we need just to be vigilant on that. You know, the biggest things I want to make is addiction is treatable. Addiction is not a crime, but a disease, and addiction can be beat, and that's really important. We also have some federal supports, and I know I've provided that into your package, but always on every one of these, how can I help you and be your voice in Ottawa? Homelessness, of course, we also know is an all-time high. The numbers are close to 500 in the region, and you know, the big thing about homelessness that I've been talking about, it's one step to become homeless. So we've talked about the ways people can slip through the cracks, but it's 3 steps to come out of homelessness. One, you do need a shelter, something that's temporary. The biggest thing I'll talk about is transitional housing. The Shiloh House in Belleville is unbelievable because they have a capacity to take 60 people at a shelter and put them into affordable housing. But the 3rd step, we need affordable housing. And the biggest thing for housing, and I'll get into that with housing, housing has to be affordable to build, to be affordable for people to rent. $700 or $800 seems to be that tipping point. It's the number that people can only afford. They can't afford $1,500. They can't afford $2,000. ODSP only pays a certain amount. They're only getting so much from the government. So either, as Councillor Carr noted before, the supports need to go up or the affordable rent needs to go down. We need to find housing that's more affordable for those people. We have some other federal supports that are here, and of course, I'll be pushing hard from the federal level, but what else do you need from me to help with this issue? And housing as a whole. We need 1.8 million homes in Canada as a whole in this region. The number is 6,000 in 5 years, 10,000 in 10 years. And when we talk to our building departments, we know we can't do that at the moment. So how do we speed that up? How do we get that going? And again, to that point, how do we look at all types of housing? The stat I heard this week, which is concerning, was that builders are slowing down building right now because the houses that they're building aren't selling. So a house at 380 or 480 may not be selling, or 500 plus, but you know, and part of that is planning from 5 years ago were subdivisions that had the houses for that price. So how do we get houses for an affordable price, and how do we get them ready to go so that they're built and moving? Obviously, we have some federal housing strategies. Bob Cottrell and Phil Spry have the best example of a for-profit, non-for-profit model that actually could entice developers to build more affordable housing using CMHC and others. So they're the ones that we should talk to more, and certainly I've mentioned Shiloh House Skilled Trades is also there. I want to commend Belleville for your doctor recruitment, and putting Karen Post, I think, is perfect in that position. And as I mentioned, it's doctors, it's nurses, it's nurse practitioners, but it's also healthcare practitioners and counselors. There's a whole slew of others that we need. It's always been one, but we need the other. But certainly Belleville is doing great work in looking after that. Infrastructure, I'm going to ask if you can to give me a list at all times. I know I've asked the mayor already of your major infrastructure asks. What do you need? Certainly I'll be pushing. There's infrastructure bank in Ottawa, but we need money to be flowing. You know, we are probably entering a recession. When we come out of the recession, we need jobs, and best jobs are going to be in infrastructure. And so certainly in Belleville, sewer plant and certainly other big projects, please let me know so I can advocate for that. And as I mentioned, Via Rail, working hard. I spoke to a member of the board today, and with the minister, I'm going to be meeting with MP Garrettson on Friday just on how do we get 651 back, which is the 5:30 a.m. train out of Toronto, picking up passengers through Belleville and Trenton and Cobourg to Toronto, and we need that back as soon as we can. One thing I'll mention last certainly is economic development, near and dear to my heart, so anything we can do to help really grow Belleville and the industrial park, and I know you're working through some of those initiatives right now, but food processing I've been really pushing hard on the industry committee as something Canada should be excelling at, and the reason for that, Canada plants 35 million acres of crop a year. As the world grows and a lot of that land leaves, Canada is in the forefront of that, and with genomics and other science advance, we're going to be able to become a booming food processing hub just around our agricultural sector. So a lot of great things happening in Belleville, but as mentioned, we've got a lot of work to do. Certainly I'm willing to put the work in. I know all of you are. Congratulations for putting yourself forward for service. It is a difficult task in the times we are now, as we heard from Gleaners and others, but certainly when we work closer together, more often together, and certainly more collaboratively, I know we can get some of these tackled. So thank you for having me today. I look forward to your questions. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Carr.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And thank you, MP Williams, for coming. I think the best message that needs to be sent to Ottawa is housing needs to be viewed as a home, not as a commodity. And unfortunately, we've come to a point where it's too much of a commodity. I believe 1/4 of all residential ownership in Ontario is for rental purposes. We saw a significant amount of borrowing during low interest rate time. Where else could you get 15% on your dollar other than through real estate? Real estate has become too much of a, I guess, an investment type vehicle, and it is leaving people behind and on the street into those homelessness situations that we talk about. And so we need to change the way we view housing, and it has to be a home first. And long gone are the days where you could invest in a bank, put your money in there, allow it to grow, and get a good return on your investment. And even now, as interest rates rise, we're still not seeing that investment that we could gain through banking. And so the banking industry really needs to change as well. When you're getting 1% or 2% on your dollar, but you know full well that that bank is investing at 15 and 20% on markets, they're making copious amounts of profits. We see that record profit reporting all the time, but individuals who want to invest through the banks can't get that return. So what do? They get cheap debt, and they go out and buy real estate, and even if they want to pay the capital gains on a second property, they're still out further ahead economically. But what that's doing is it's driving the cost of housing further and further away from the population. And I'm interested to see the food bank hard totals, because that's going to give us a good barometer as the people that are deciding whether they're going to pay their rent or pay their mortgage and pay their bills or eat. And it's sad that we live in a society with the amount of money that we have that we're sitting there scratching our heads of why do we have this problem and how can we fix it. So I know that you've raised this before, and I encourage you to continue to raise that. But we need to look at it as a home, not as a commodity. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Alsop?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, MP Williams, for being here today. We greatly appreciate your presentation and this feeling of collaboration. I think that is what's needed at all three levels to make a dent in any of these issues that we're facing right now. But as someone who's been working with the Enrichment Center for Mental Health for quite a while and serves as their treasurer, one of the challenges that we have with these organizations is the lack of stable funding. So it's here one day, it's gone the next, new party comes in, change of priorities, and all of a sudden programs that are really working now don't have the funding that they need to continue or to expand in the ways that they might need to provide a better service. So I think the first question I'd ask you would be about a pathway towards stable funding for organizations like that so that we can deliver a service that is of quality and that we can guarantee will be there. The next portion of the question is we have a new warden for Hastings County who certainly from a provincial standpoint is our biggest support as it relates to housing. And Bob Mullins, the new warden, has created a plan or is interested in expanding a plan to 7,000 units of affordable housing over the next 7 years, which I think is a solution that to me seems to fit the scope of the issue. But the question is, what goals and targets do you have as it relates to these issues for our area?
Thank you, Councillor Alsop. And I'll start with the first question. We look at mental health as health. And so I think the first changes have to be that it has to be included with the healthcare envelope, and therefore healthcare funding should be stable, should be included with healthcare and then flow through the provinces. And again, we give an awful lot of money from the federal government in healthcare transfers. That's where at least one third of the money comes from. So right now the Prime Minister and the provinces are negotiating transfers, but on our side, on the mental health side, it has to be included as the same thing so that there's stable funding, because mental health is health. On your second part, I think Warden Mullins is right on to set some targets. I think that's something that we need to do. When we set targets every year, we can evaluate how close we've come to that. Certainly, the first part is we need affordable housing that's affordable to build. So if builders right now, for instance, are slowing down builds because people aren't buying those homes, we need to look at new innovative ways to buy that. And there is a couple companies in Canada, one maybe in this region, that is looking at composite housing, something that's really it's still good housing, 1,200 to 1,600 square feet, would sit on a cement pad, but it is cheaper to build. Therefore, if you can put that in to certain areas, you might be able to afford to rent that for $700 or $800, and that would then hit your targets. If you're selling them, if you have a market for it, and we certainly have a market, we have a lot of people that need homes, then you can build them and the business models is there, but we need to get through to the next step, not just the $1 million homes.
Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, Councillor Alsop, got to the point that I wanted to get at. I sit on the Enrichment Center along with Councillor Millette and Councillor Alsop, but when you say we don't have enough councillors, we don't have enough councillors because we don't have enough funding. And that's really, as Councillor Alsop just brought, the Enrichment Center, number of times they've had to turn clients away that need help and they just no funding. And, I can speak on a personal term relationship. When I needed some help, I went to the Enrichment Center. I had a problem getting a counselor to speak to me. That's an issue. And if we're going to solve the problem with mental health in this community and every community, unless they can get somebody to talk to, they're done. Housing is one, but you take somebody that's got some mental issues, go into a house, they don't know how to look after it, they get into the houses that the county provides, they can't provide for themselves, houses gets damaged. We need counselors, we need them at the hospitals, we need them at the agencies, but as Councillor Alsop, we need a steady funding for it. That's, in my estimation, if we're going to solve some problems, we have to get to the middle. We just hired the 2 people for downtown, the second person, again on mental issues, and I'm sure if these people got a little bit of help, like I did, it gets you over the hump and be able to carry on life. And so I would say part of the government's problem is we need to get funding, steady as it may be, we need more funding for councillors to solve the mental health problems. Thank you.
Right on.
Any other questions? Councillor Kelly?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Good to see you, MP Williams. And first of all, Happy New Year. And I want to thank you and your wife, Allison, and family. You go to a lot of events throughout the year, and you're doing a good job representing Bay of Quinte. So Happy New Year to you.
Thank you, Councillor.
I think you couldn't have come at a better night to speak to us tonight and be here. We heard the need from Kingston Health Sciences, where there's almost 30,000 visits from Belleville to the hospital, and the need there for funding. And also 33% increase at the food bank. Gleaners here, I know you know it well. Thousands use the Gleaners. And it was good to have Matt speak tonight to update us all, and then anybody that's watching is getting a reality check. So we hear those messages tonight, and I follow you on Twitter and Instagram, and you've been advocating for homelessness, addictions, inflation, and the cell phone campaign right now. That I found that interesting. The Canadians pay the highest per capita, I think, anywhere in the world. My biggest thing is, if you're in, we talk about affordable homes, building homes like Councillor Carr, we all know that need, the mental health. But a lot of those basic things, roof over my head, being able to put food on the table, and just quality of life. And we go to the grocery store, we see the prices are ridiculous. My last thing, and you can maybe just summarize, is immigration in this country. And you're at the federal level, so immigration comes under the portfolio. Just before Christmas, I was taken home by Central Taxi, doing the safe thing, and I spoke to my driver. Master's degree, I think from Lebanon, living in Belleville, can't work as a licensed or as an engineer, has to go through so many loopholes. We see it in the medical field where doctors have to go for retraining, and they were doctors in their previous country for years. So to me, that seems like it's a little confusing. Could we move on that? That would be something. And just the basic necessities, it seems like everybody's worried. And you talked about inflation coming, and you know, it just that I get that too from the residents of Belleville. They're worried what the next week is coming. So just kind of summarize some of my thoughts, if you want to just expand on
Sure,
what
I'll-
a Tory government might do differently.
Yeah, well, I'll just answer in general is what I can do for all of you here and on those. And you're right. I mean, inflation's the highest in 40 years. We hear it. I know as you as counselors get as many emails as I do on people who are suffering right now. Grocery stores, the thing this week was a pack of chicken was $40, and you know it's hard, right, for people who have to go and pay so many other bills and what they have to do. So, you know, the biggest thing we're working on in the government is we need to, you know, help these supply chains, produce more goods that money buys, ensure we rein spending in, you know, little things like that. I do want to touch on the immigration piece. This is a really big one. We need more immigrants in Belleville. We need workers. We need people to live here. Certainly, you know, it's a great thing that we do in Canada is welcome so many people from other countries, and we're still one of the top, if not the top nation in the world to welcome them. One thing that ties into what you're doing with doctor recruitment, there are the number that's out there is there's 14,000 internationally trained doctors in Canada who are not accredited as doctors. So something that we're looking at for the immigration side is to look at accreditation of internationally trained doctors and make sure that they become doctors in our communities. So working with the provinces is how we can do that. I'm in charge of interprovincial trade, so it's also doctors who are trained in one province or the other. It's hard to transfer those credentials over, and we want to expedite that and make that happen. When you're looking for 50, 60 doctors, professionals, experts here in Belleville, that's one way we can probably help that. I know when I was campaigning a year ago in Quinte West, there was a doctor from Cuba living in Quinte West who didn't have their credentials transferred to Canada yet. So that is one doctor who we could have practicing very shortly. So those are certain solutions I want to work with you guys with in this region and see how we can solve that.
Okay, Councillor Chapman?
Thank you, and through you, Chair. MP Williams, nice to see you, and please extend my greetings to your lovely wife as well. I think education is the passport out of poverty, and it follows that opportunity for education makes it possible for people to advance in their circumstances. So I'm wondering what incentives are available federally to attract mental health and addiction services to our particular region, first of all, and secondly, what opportunities are available federally to reach those who are facing addictions issues? I very much liked how you said addiction is not a crime, it is a disease. I'd like to add that homelessness is also not a crime, it is a circumstance. But both of those things, I think, are a bit of a wraparound. I'm wondering if you have any insight on those two things.
Well, thank you very much, Councillor, and Happy New Year to you. Certainly, you know, there are funding envelopes and pockets in the federal level that do flow to the provincial government, and that's where we work with Todd, with our MPP, on where that funding goes and how it's available. In your packet, there are some numbers, but what we're looking for is funding. And I think when it comes to education, then it's trying to tie the education to our residents on what's available for resources and to those organizations that are working here. But also, you know, if we need more funding or more counselors, what are we doing with Loyalist College? I'm a big advocate of Loyalist College. They're doing incredible work, and to me, they are the catalyst. That college is how we can train more workers into professions we need here, and how to bring more international students into some of those professions as well. Certainly with all of that, we need to work closely on communication and education. I think there's some supports that we have in the federal government and provincial that, just like some programs with the food bank and others, we're just not educating people here or yourselves enough by. So I'll work harder to get those to you, and certainly, and I'll be working with Todd with how we can get those out.
Okay, any more questions? Councillor Alsop?
Thank you, Chair, and sorry to take another turn at this, but we have the opportunity, so why not, you know, while you're here. So we are anticipating having a homelessness and mental health summit in the spring. So things that I'm looking to get out of that summit are to identify and quantify the size of the need in the area, identify all supports available, look at the gaps between what is needed and what supports we have, create a strategy, and then look at funding and cost sharing for a strategy that will effectively reduce the nature of the issue that we have in town. My question to you is, will you be in attendance for that event, and what sort of goals are you hoping that, you know, or what sort of information are you hoping that comes out of that to help you effectively advocate on our behalf in Ottawa?
Yeah, and I think it's a great initiative. Congratulations to your worship and to council for coming up with this. I think the more the better. I've certainly offered my support, my availability, if not here in person, by Zoom, and my team and everything else. Certainly, I offer the same to you, anyone who wants to come to Ottawa at any time, and certainly with your worship, that if we need to have closer meetings with that, I've noted everything you've got here, so I can try to get some of that from the resources we have, but certainly congratulations on holding that forum, and certainly what we want to see from that are targets, and make sure that I get the same targets and hold me responsible for them.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Enright Miller.
Thank you, Chair, through you. Happy New Year, Ryan.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Nice to see you. You mentioned Bob and Phil from 111 Great St. James. I was fortunate enough to have a tour with them and got very excited about the process. The model works. And I said to them, I said, we need land and we need money. And they agreed, that's what we need. And I'm happy to say that I was able to facilitate a meeting with the two of them and two landlords that I work with in my day job who have big hearts and some deep pockets. So I'm hoping that between the four of them, we can come up with some more land, some more money, and reinvent it again somewhere else. And I would encourage us all in our daytime life, and if we know people, to maybe team up with people like Phil Spry and Bob Cottrell, and because I think that model really does work. It's amazing all of our internal agencies that rent and have people in the building, and some people are paying a very small little modest rent to a market rent. And it's a great facility, and I'm going to continue to work, and I will happily work along with you with anything that can be done with that type of model as well. Thank you.
Absolutely, and they're great to have them here. I think the biggest thing for the developer, you can't have a for-profit go in and lose $1 million. They would just put the million into a hospital or something else. They have to at least break even or make some money. They figured out with the government funding and the initiatives and the partnerships how to make it work, and I think that's really important. So it's not only an example for here, for more, what I'd like to see is more developers in touch with them that would like to get into that kind of housing, so they have the model that works. But number two, it's a model for across Canada. It really is. Some people go in and they lose money and they never do it again. We need more of it, and they have the model, and they are offering rent for $700 for some of those rooms. So.
Okay. Any more questions? Motion to receive. Councillor Chatton, Councillor Brown, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Can we all come to Parliament together, and
absolutely.
We'll bring the whole council and staff, okay? That's right. Excellent. Under correspondence, we have a letter January 23rd from Belleville Chamber of Commerce. The resolution that the free shuttle service from the main terminal to Loyalist College requested in the January 3rd, 23rd letter from Belleville Chamber of Commerce for the Family Fun Fest winter edition on Sunday, February 12th, 23, organized as per the city events contract, be approved and referred to staff for consultation. Moved by Councillor Alsop, Councillor Chatton. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Resolution that council rise and go to committee of the whole to hear and consider reports, passing recommendations, and resolutions with Councillor Brown in the chair. Moved by Councillor Kelly, Councillor Enright Miller. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you. I have my coaches on either side, which is a good thing. Item number 8A1, appointment of citizen members to various committees, city boards and committees. And the resolution reads that pursuant to the Director of Corporate Services Clerk's Report number DCS-2023-01, appointment of members to various city boards and committees, a bylaw to repeal and replace bylaw 2019-02, appointments bylaw, be prepared for council's consideration. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Thank you. Movers, Councillor Chatton and Mayor Ellis. Discussion? Thank you, Councillor Carr.
Yes, thank you. You know, it's certainly great to see so many residents put their name forward to sit on various committees, and you know, I know it's a difficult task to whittle those names down to a list here to fill those committees. I came in on Friday just to review the plethora of applications, and it was quite extensive, just simply because I didn't know some of the individuals, and reviewing the applications and seeing the level of talent that is there that has stepped forward and want to volunteer in our community is commendable, and certainly appreciate everybody that did apply. Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, could call the question, please. All those in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Item 8A2, 2023 Chamber of Commerce Events and Visitor Service Contracts. The resolution reads, in accordance with Section 30.3, sole and single sourcing, approval and reporting of the city's purchasing bylaw number 2021-99, the agreement with the Belleville Chamber of Commerce be accepted for the provision of special event services in the amount of $145,000 plus $18,850 HST for a total of $163,850, and the provision of visitor services in the amount of $125,000 plus $16,250 HST for a total of $141,250, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign the acceptance agreement on behalf of the corporation of the City of Belleville, and that the city clerk be authorized to affix the corporate seal, and that council provide 2023 operating budget pre-budget approval to increase the community events chamber contract budget by $10,200 and increase the visitor services chamber contract budget by $15,200, with the funding being through taxation. A mover, please. Thank you, Councillor Alsop. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Enright Miller. Discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion's carried. Item 8B, consent items. Council may adopt the consent items by one motion, but prior to consideration of such motion, members may be asked that specific items be removed from consideration under such motion, and council shall consider such items individually. Beginning with Councillor Alsop.
No.
Councillor Enright Miller.
No.
Councillor Carr.
8B6, please.
Councillor Thompson.
No, thank you.
Councillor Kelly.
No, thank you.
Councillor Manette.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chatton.
No, thank you, Chair.
Mayor Ellis.
No, thank you.
8B6. That the resolution be that the consent items be approved with the exception of item 8B6. Mover, thank you, Councillor Alsop and Mayor Ellis. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposition? Seeing none, the motion's carried. If we could go to item 8B6, please, and Councillor Carr. Same process? Sorry, learning as I go. There. The City of Belleville's response to Provincial Bill 109, More Homes for Everyone Act 2022. The resolution reads that report number DEDS 2023-01, dated January 9th, 2023, regarding City of Belleville's response to Provincial Bill 109, More Homes for Everyone Act 2022, be received as information. A mover, please, Councillor Carr. Seconder, Councillor Chatton. And Councillor Carr, I believe you pulled this one for discussion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to speak on this a little bit. I know it goes kind of hand in hand with Bill 23 that the province previously passed, but there's some significant implications here, obviously, for the municipality in terms of targets and on zoning applications, official plan amendments, and site plans. And essentially, if we're not meeting those timeframes, then we have to refund application fees. If we refund application fees and there's a cost associated with reviewing that application, then guess who pays for that time? Instead of the applicant who's driving that cost, it'll be the taxpayer that's already paying a lot of the bills here, which I think is pretty significant. And so when you look back at this bill, and it started with the task force, Housing Affordability Task Force, and it's interesting because a lot of the players in that particular task force report were bankers and real estate members. Obviously they're going to make a lot of money off of 1.5 million homes. There wasn't a lot in terms of stakeholders from an affordability perspective. I think there was somebody there from Habitat, but I think it was more token than it was actually to make a difference, which is unfortunate. There was 58 recommendations that came from that report, and then the legislation fails to put any performance on the builder and the developer. And when you look at the legislation, we have targets as a municipality, and they're quite stringent. I know for a fact that we have one particular development in the city that has sitting on 40 building permits, but is only building 4. There was a reference from a deputation about a slowdown. Some of that slowdown, quite frankly, is not that people don't want to buy them, although that is part of it, but the builders are slowing it down from a scarcity perspective, because with the decline in price, they don't want to advertise what the price currently is. They're hoping that there is a correction, because it's a for-profit business. At the end of the day, when we talk about the housing crisis that we have, and the fact that we have people on the street with no roof over their head, we have to fundamentally change the way we look at it. So, in essence, we're going to be held feet to the fire to make sure our applications are approved within the appropriate time frames, because municipalities has been pegged as the gatekeeper to slow down growth. But once we approve those things, there is no mechanism in any provincial legislation or regulations that put the onus on the builder to deliver the supply within a certain period of time based on those approvals. And so, you know, I think it'll be good. I'm a strong proponent of measuring performance, so I think this is good. Quite frankly, a lot of the things that has been pointed out as best practices by the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Planning Department is already doing. So we're being proactive in that way. I recognize that this is a provincial lens, and there are perhaps municipalities that foot drag to a certain degree, which provide that impediment. But I'd also like to go one step further when it comes to actual performance and measuring it. What I hope to see is that, you know, not only will we measure our applications, but then we're going to note the date that an application is approved, and then we're going to, I think, and I'll propose this down the road, that we monitor when that development is actually occurring, to actually see the time frame that goes by, because there's too much control of the housing supply in the private sector with the housing developers. And that has to change if we really want to have an impact on giving people the option for homes, and particularly affordability. Because the other side of it is, and it's just a sales tactic, but reducing the supply right now, because things are tight, increases scarcity. Then people are more apt to buy it, because if I don't, I'm going to miss out. And so if we saturated the market with builds, the prices would just naturally fall, people would have a place to stay, and perhaps maybe these other systemic societal issues we have start to abate. So I hope we can start tracking that. The other thing I'd like to do, and I won't do it today, I want to build on it a bit from this, but I'd like to bring a motion forward at a later meeting where we ask the province to implement regulations in their provincial legislation that hold developers and builders to account to meet certain targets based on approved dates. And that, to me, is the complete partnership component that's necessary for us to actually see 1.5 million homes achieved over the next 10 years. Otherwise, we'll approve all this, and the private sector will continue to control the supply, which will continue to control the market, which will continue to control the cost, and we'll continue to have the issues that we have in our society today. So I have no problems. I think the planning staff are up to the challenge, and we'll work through this. But the flip side is there needs to be performance and accountability to the developers to actually deliver the builds, to make it affordable for people in Ontario to have a place to call a home. Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, I call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion's carried. Moving on to 8C, Council Information Matters. Council may adopt consent items by one motion, but prior to consideration of such motion, members may request that specific items be removed from consideration under such motion, and Council shall consider such items individually. Beginning with Mayor Ellis, any items?
No, thank you.
Councillor Chatton?
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Millette?
Yes, Madam Chair. 8C1B as in Bob, and 8C2 D as in David, please.
Councillor Kelly.
No, thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
Already polled, thank you.
Councillor Carr.
No, thank you.
Councillor Enright Miller.
No, thank you.
Councillor Alsop.
No, thank you.
So therefore, the resolution reads that the agenda items be received with the exception of items 8C1B and 8C2D. May I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Alsop and Councillor Chatton. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you, the motion's carried. Moving on then to 8C1B. Quinte Conservation Annual Report 2022. It's 8C1B. Right. So, Councillor Millet?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and I asked to have this pulled as, in particular, actually, I had asked to have this placed on the agenda from our, it was part and parcel of our December 2022 meeting of Quinte Conservation, and I asked that this report be pulled from it. I would highly recommend my colleagues and the general public give this a read. You can see the link online to this report. At a time when the importance and the viability even of our conservation authorities are being assailed by the provincial government, this is an example of the good things that these authorities do in our communities across Ontario. And as chair of the Green Task Force, I see it firsthand. I think, some of the numbers, and again, I urge all of you to read the report when you get a chance. Everything from community planting programs to educational programs, on and on and on, of course, to the core mandates of the authority of protecting us from flood risk and source water protection for our drinking water. This report, I was blown away by the sheer volume of and quality of the programs that have been run out of that office, and at a time, again, when they're under attack by the current provincial government trying to diminish their importance, diminish their roles. It's an agency that really does yeoman's work on all our behalf. So I just pulled it to urge everyone to please read it. There's a lot to digest in there, but it's a lot of important information.
So my apologies, Councillor Millet, green as grass over here.
Yes.
I should have asked for a mover and a seconder on that one.
I will so move.
Seconder, thank you, Councillor Chatton. Any discussion on this particular one? Then I'm assuming we're just receiving this. So receiving the Quinte Conservation Authority Annual Report for 2022. All those in favor, please? Thank you, the motion's carried. And then moving on to item 8C2D. So over here, request the provincial government to promptly pass an administrative penalties regulation under the Resource Recovery and Circular Economy Act 2016, a resolution, December 6, 2022, resolution from the City of Belleville. May I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Chatton and Councillor Millet. And Councillor Millet, you asked for this one as well.
I did, Madam Chair. Again, wearing my Green Task Force hat on this one. This motion is seemingly innocuous, very deep as it is in our information matters. But I would urge us to support this motion and endorse it from Kingston City Council. As many of us may or may not be aware, we're fast approaching the producer pay model for recycling in this province, and this alludes to the fact that in this Resource Recovery and Circular Economy Act of 2016, which spells out how all of that will unfold by 2025. In essence, the people who make the items that are filling our landfills will now be responsible for collecting it. So it won't be up to the municipalities to pay for and support collecting through the Blue Box or other recycling initiatives, it'll be the producers. Great idea. Problem is, when the producers of these materials are in charge of, collecting them and recycling them, you're going to find the producers are going to start changing the rules on what, where, and when, and how we do this. One gaping hole in the fabric that our friends down the highway in Kingston have noticed is that there's really no enforcement under any of the existing legislation, and an administrative penalty, if you will, that would be paid by these people who are breaking the law already. In the motion from Kingston Council, data provided by the Resource Productivity and Recovery Authority shows there's currently a backlog of over 2,000 cases of potential non-compliance and almost 200 known instances of non-compliance already. So the problem exists already. There's no regulatory body to hold their feet to the fire or indeed even punish them for being scofflaws. If we don't get a handle on this soon, by 2025, when it's a full producer pay system, forget about your idea of what you think recycling is all about, because if there aren't the mechanisms to punish the people who are abusing the system, it's worthless. So I would urge us to support Kingston's resolution and pass it on to the province. Thank you.
Any other comments on this item, Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what Councillor Millette brought forward. The potentials now is endless if we don't get some restrictions on it. I commend for bringing it up. And as they said, 200 cases or 2,000 cases. And the other one is the Resource Productivity and Recovery Authority has found batteries producers non-compliant for collecting and assembling and processing of batteries. And we just know how batteries are so toxic in our environment, in our landfills. So that's just another example. So I commend Councillor Millette for bringing it forward. Thank you.
Councillor Chatton?
Thank you, through you, Chair. Please forgive me for my ignorance on this, but I don't quite understand. So if we're passing it forward to the province, is it possible for them to volley it back to the municipality to say, create a bylaw then, so that it can be enforced? Or is this something that we're just leaving with the province?
I can answer that one. The resolution is to, well, in the Kingston resolution, it's whereas, but they're urging the province to enact a resolution to be resolved that the City of Kingston calls on the provincial government to promptly pass an administrative penalties regulation. The Resource Recovery and Circular Economy Act is already in place. That mechanism simply needs to be put into the legislation, because there's no penalty built into the legislation is what it's urging. Thank you.
Understood, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Then could I call the question, please? All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Motion's carried. May I have a motion to rise and report, please? Thank you, Councillor Alsop. Councillor Kelly? All those in favor? Motion's carried.
Thank you. 05, 09, 10, 11, and 12. Moved by Councillor Enright Miller, Councillor Chatton. All in favor? Carried. Second reading of bylaw and discussions. Bylaw 2023-01, 02, 03, 04, 05, 09, 10, 11, and 12. Moved by Councillor Kelly, Councillor Millette. Discussion. Councillor Thompson.
On bylaw 2023-1, on the appointment of our new treasurer. Want to welcome him and congratulate them on the new appointment, so.
Great. Any other discussion? All in favor? Carried. Third reading of bylaws 2023-01, 02, 03, 04, 05, 09, and finally 10 and 11 and 12. Moved by Councillor Brown, Councillor Chatton. All in favor? Carried. New business. Councillor Thompson.
Just one, I think everybody got a notice on the Belleville Lawn Bowling, on the parking situation. I just want to let you know that we have received it and it will be passed on to staff for a consideration for the parking situation over at the lawn bowling. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Carr.
Yes, thank you. I just asked for a staff report. The city's currently funding Route 9 with provincial gas tax. That funding is going to end on March 31st. The previous council made the decision to have this as a permanent expenditure, so we need to make a decision. I'm not quite sure when the 2023 operating budget meeting will be scheduled, so I'd like a staff report on the February 13th council meeting, just outlining the ridership pickups and residential stops from commencement of the service to date, some financial analysis on the cost per rider per trip. I'd also like to get staff's opinion on a pay-per-use option for the mobility bus in that area. And I'd also like staff to identify current non-serviced areas in the city that are currently paying for transit in their property taxes. And I'll send something out to the staff.
Okay, thank you. I see council with this. It's fine. We'll get that sent out to staff and get that information for you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Motions, notice of motions, announcements. Councillor Alsop.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I would like to proclaim that January 25th is Bell Let's Talk Day. This day is a very important day in our city and across the country. We ask residents of Belleville to take the time to recognize this day and help raise awareness as we try to remove the stigma attached to mental health. The Bell Let's Talk flag will be flown at the Quinte Sports and Wellness Center on January 25th. The Belleville sign, Bridge Street Bridge, and Fire Station No. 1 Memorial Garden will also be lit in blue on January 25th for this cause.
Thank you for that. Any other announcements? Councillor Millette?
Thank you, Your Worship, and I'd like to proclaim January 28th as Superior Mesenteric Artery Syndrome Awareness Day, otherwise known as SMAS. It's a rare digestive condition that affects a small percentage of the population but can be quite debilitating and even lead to death if untreated. For this annual Awareness Day, the Belleville sign, Bridge Street Bridge, and Fire Station Memorial Garden will be lit purple to help bring more awareness to the illness and to be helping others to know the effects it can have on the people who are facing this battle.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I just wanted to say it was a wonderful day, January the 1st at the City Levy. Thanks to Mayor Neil Ellis and all our colleagues that were there. Really enjoyed it, and nice to meet the citizens, and thanks to all the city staff for putting a great program together. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Carr.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to announce that myself and Councillor Brown will be co-hosting a Ward 2 Town Hall meeting on Thursday, February 16th at 6:30 p.m. at the Thurlow Community Center, 516 Harmony Road. Purpose, as always, is to provide an update on current city issues, review the 2023 draft capital budget, and also a question and answer session with residents. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Carr, if you would get that information to our media, we'll put that out on our media feed for you.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Anybody else? I have a few here, and I would just take a moment to thank the Kiwanis Club and Rotary Club for hosting me at their luncheons this week. As part of the Rotary Club of Belleville's 100th anniversary year of service above self in our community, they donated 100% of the musical garden at Riverside Park, as well as outdoor fitness equipment you'll find along the Bayshore Trail. They also have committed every year to plant trees to help our community's health and protecting our tree canopy. We're working with Vince Lynch and John Smell to do some maintenance work at the Children of Hope statue located on Pinnacle and Front Street, and updating some aging signage to recognize the important work Rotary has been doing in our community for everyone's enjoyment. I also had the enjoyment of spending a lunch and a speech with the Kiwanis Club. And I'd like to thank them for some of the things they've done in their community, like Family Kite Festival was a great hit for the community. Over the years, the partnerships, a dedicated group of Kiwanians is important to this city. The Kiwanis Bayshore Trail would not be what it is today without their support, and the skateboard park is a key destination to many in the area. These are just a few examples of our community groups, and I'd like to thank these groups, plus many other, that for the betterment of Belleville. I also received a letter from Mayor Steve Ferguson. Dear Mayor Ellis, on behalf of council staff and residents of Prince Edward County, I would like to extend a heartfelt thanks to you, the City of Belleville, for assistance in providing equipment and operators to support our county's effort during this declared emergency and recent blizzard. I'd just like to thank Joe Reed, and I know you called me, Joe, to see if we could send equipment, and the mayor at his levy mentioned it yesterday, and he wants to thank you personally and all our staff that worked over the holidays, and I know that they did work hard in helping our county, and I know that they'll be there if we need them also. So on behalf of that, Joe, thank you, and thank your staff. With that, I think that we're almost done here. I need a resolution that the bylaw number 2023, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on January 9, 23, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally pass this 9th day of January 23. Moved by Councillor Chatton, Councillor Enright Miller, all in favor, carried. And the last in favor, a motion to adjourn, Councillor Alston.